movie.
And it's in monochromatic, very artsy stuff. But yeah, very much. I thought that was like kind of the underdog of this year. So shout out to Malcolm and Marie.
All right, check it out. Well, because I'm not ready to talk about what my favorite movie of the year was yet.
Which I think I know.
I'm pretty sure you know, given our discussion last night. Let's talk about a movie that you and I both recently watched, and you and I both did not love. Was good for part of it, not all of it, and that's The Matrix Resurrections.
Oh, yeah.
Which you and I both watched. I think we agreed, like, the first half is pretty good, and then second half gets real convoluted. A lot of the new characters just kind of disappear, and the new characters were really interesting. You know, Bugs, the Jessica Henwick character, was great.
Yahya Abdul-Mateen's Morpheus character.
Yeah, he was good, and he just kind of disappears, like, for that third act. He's just like a non-entity. And then I was really bummed by that because I liked his take on Morpheus. And then, I don't know, like you and I were talking, Lawrence Fishburne, like, was he asked back?
Like, yeah, it was very, like...
Because, Yahya plays, a newer version of Morpheus.
Basically, it's the version of that Neo has coded within the Matrix, correct? So it's like his version of what
he remembers of Morpheus.
Uh-huh.
Because you said, oh, well, it takes place, 60 years...
In the future.
In the future.
After everything has happened in the original trilogy.
Yeah. So I guess they could have had Fishburne back with old age makeup. They slapped it all over Jada Pinkett Smith.
Yes. Which was, yeah, I was like, Niobe agreed to come back, but you didn't, like, and Hugo Weaving, like, it was just kind of like, you guys couldn't have cameoed? I don't know.
Yeah.
It just seemed kind of strange. Overall, I think it's getting a kind of a worse rap than it really is. I think it had a lot more potential. And like you said, or that we agreed, the first half is great.
It's even pretty meta for at least the first half hour or so.
I was also really pissed that they underused Christina Ricci. Like, why did you hire her?
She just cameos because she was in Speed Racer. They know her from Speed Racer. Well, I shouldn't say they because it was just Lana directed instead of Lana and Lily. But yeah, like that. I'm thinking that was just a favor to Lana because of Speed Racer. But yeah, she's got one scene.
Yeah, where she's like, "Great, we're gonna talk about the Matrix video game today," or whatever, and that's it. Like, wow, because I'm a big fan of Ricci, so I was just like, really, you guys like made a big deal that she's in this movie and she's really not. Probably kind of harkens back to Anderson, but I feel like those are more justified.
Yeah,
right. They do more, but
I like Jonathan Groff as like new Agent Smith. I thought he was really good, but even he kind of disappears in the film. Like he's got the big fight with Neo when they're in that warehouse, and then he's not in a whole lot of the rest of the movie, unless I'm misremembering. I saw this. I'm gonna watch it again, but I saw it late at night on Christmas.
Oh, okay.
After a long week, so if I'm getting a couple of things wrong, please correct me.
I think he comes back, but yeah, in general, you're correct because his character doesn't have nearly as much screen time as he should have had. Even Neil Patrick Harris really is not in the movie when you find out that sorry, spoiler alert, but he's like pretty much the main villain behind everything as the analyst, right? Is that his name? I don't know. The Matrix Resurrections was very hyped up, and it's kind of meddling.
Well, it's... From what I understand, and they make a reference to it in the film, Warner Brothers wanted a new Matrix movie, and sounded like they were going to go ahead with it, whether or not the Wachowskis were involved.
Yeah, I remember reading a couple years ago that Michael B. Jordan was attached to something at one point. So yeah, they were definitely looking to do something.
Yeah.
Would that have been with, like, Keanu and Carrie-Anne Moss still, or...?
I don't know, because I'm sure that they could have easily said no. It sounds like the both of them probably weren't going to do it if the Wachowskis weren't involved.
Mm-hmm.
I think because Lana wanted to do it was why Keanu and Carrie-Anne Moss said yes to it. So then, and this, like I said, they make a reference to that when they're talking about the video game. And, you know, this was a popular trilogy of video games that all of a sudden Warner Brothers wants a follow-up to.
Mm-hmm.
And as Groff says, they're going to go ahead with it whether we're involved or not. So, I'm glad, you know, Lana at least decided to come back and direct it and not put it in the hands of someone else who just won't get it or understand it. The action was not great. It was very muddy.
Yeah, it was. It seemed like they recycled, like, the same moves and stuff
Yeah.
a few times.
That fight in the warehouse with the exile programs it wasn't fun. It wasn't anything like the original.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I was really bummed out. Now it's about the point in the movie where I was kind of, this is starting to lose me now.
I did like when the analyst has all of he's like forcing all of these people to jump out of the windows and using them as their bodies as bombs or whatever. That was a cool little scene, but overall, yeah, the action was definitely underwhelming.
I like the opening sequence that kind of starts out in the original film and then moves through. That opening sequence with Bugs is a lot of fun, and it's really well done.
Yeah, when you go into it, you think it's going to all be like that, and then it kind of they lose that momentum, which I'm not really sure why.
Didn't absolutely hate it, just loved basically the first half, and then the second half wasn't really doing it for me anymore. But like I said, given when I watched it, I am going to go back and watch it the second time to see if maybe it'll do a little bit better for me if I'm not so worn out from the last week.
Also, compared to John Wick, I felt like Keanu Reeves looked a little lost.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Which is weird because they didn't have Wu Ping do the fight choreography. They had the John Wick guys do the fight choreography for it. But yeah, you're right. It's not nearly as kinetic as the John Wick choreography. There was a great meta thing that I wanted to point out, which is in the real world, Carrie-Anne Moss's husband in the coffee shop is Chad Stileski, who was Keanu Reeves' stunt double for all the movies, and then does John Wick now. But she even calls him Chad, like, this is my husband Chad or whatever. I was like, oh, I think that's Chad Stileski, and in the credits, yeah, he's listed.
That's funny.
It kind of gives a better ending to the Matrix films than we saw in Revolutions.
Yeah.
Another movie that I wished was a lot better was Don't Look Up, the new Adam McKay movie. Another movie that's got a stacked cast. Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Jonah Hill, Meryl Streep, Rob Morgan, who's super good in it, one of the best parts of the film. Timothy Chalamet, about, a comet that's headed towards Earth, and two astronomers, played by Lawrence and DiCaprio, are trying to warn people, and it just seemed like they just can't be bothered. No one can be bothered to really deal with the situation. Very much kind of a satire of the times we're living in now. I think it's supposed to be about like a metaphor for climate change. And that's why DiCaprio wanted to do the film. But it just so happens that it comes out at this point in time when we're dealing with a pandemic, when a lot of people just don't want to pay attention to it, can't be bothered to take the precautions to protect themselves and those around them. So it's very much people screaming about what we need to do, very scientific evidence, backing things up, and no one wants to pay attention. It was okay. I wished it had been better. It's way too long. It's almost 2.5 hours, which is so fucking long for a comedy. And it wasn't as funny, even if it was satire, it wasn't as funny as it could be. But both DiCaprio and Lawrence have an epic freak-out meltdown scene, respectively. They are very good in it. Oh, you know who else is in it? Drop the Mic podcast favorite Melanie Linsky, who's DiCaprio's wife. And she's very good. She's one of the better parts of the film. But I know you said you started watching it, didn't make it all the way through.
About 50 minutes in.
Yeah.
What I saw, I liked. It does drag a bit here and there. But it's funny. Great performances. I think I'll agree with you on that, where it just doesn't really hit its mark.
Yeah. It's not nearly as funny as it should be. And comedy should not be 2.5 hours long. Comedies work in the 90 to, 120 minute range. Even 120 minutes is pushing it. But if you're going to do it, make it funny. And the laughs were few and far between for me.
I really enjoyed talking about digital releases. The Guilty, Antoine Fuqua's.
The Gyllenhaal movie, right?
Yeah. It was really good.
I like the trailer. I remember seeing the trailer for it. They're back together again because they did Southpaw together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, solid. Gyllenhaal's always gives you a great performance, and this is no exception. He's basically a dispatcher who has been put there as kind of like this as punishment for doing something on duty. So he pretty much got demoted. And the movie just kind of follows you through him trying to guide people on their phones through these terrible situations that happen, with the 911 emergency calls. So it's a very, very different take. Not everybody's gonna like this because it's very, how do you say, like small scale, obviously, and it's basically him talking on the phone for like an hour and a half. It's not very long, so I think that works in its benefit.
It almost sounds like it takes place in real time. Is that fair to say? Okay.
I think what's really interesting about how they made this is that Fuqua did it from like inside like a van or something.
Oh, they filmed during the pandemic, obviously.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. So they didn't actually really interact with each other, which is insane, but beautifully shot. Great, yeah. Probably one of my favorites from this year.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a movie I want to see. He had another movie that came out this year, Fuqua, the Mark Wahlberg movie, that was supposed to be a studio release in theaters and then went straight to Paramount Plus.
The Bell something? It's a name?
The Infinite.
Oh, yeah.
Or Infinite, maybe. Just maybe Infinite. Lose the. It's cleaner.
Who's the other guy in it?